So you want her to relax, you want her to open up to you, you want her to feel close, you want, in essence, her body to say yes. But let me ask you something. Does your presence help her to exhale, or does it make her brace? Because everything changes when she doesn't feel safe. And I don't mean physically safe per se, though that is non-negotiable. I mean more so emotionally or energetically or relationally or even spiritually. I mean, can she actually be herself in your presence without having to manage your emotions, your expectations, or even your ego? Can she, in essence, can she let down her guard without worrying that you'll make it all about yourself? Or can she show up imperfectly without fearing punishment or withdrawal or even judgment? See, I think that's what safety actually means. And if you want her trust, if you want her body, if you want her closeness to you, then you need to understand and know how to create safety in that connection first. But let's be clear, desire is not enough. And your attraction to her, it does not entitle you to her openness. Because love isn't just about how much you want someone, it's more so about how safe they feel being near you. And that's the most important part that men skip, I believe. See, you might not even realize that you're skipping this aspect. You're probably thinking, I've been respectful and I've waited and I haven't really been pushy. I've said all the right things. But what matters more than your behavior is the energy that comes behind it. See, she doesn't just hear what you're saying, but she also feels where you're saying it from. And if what she feels is pressure, if what she feels is a sense of entitlement, if what she feels is your unmet needs bleeding into every conversation, then no matter how polite you are, she's not going to feel safe. Because safety is not about being nice. It's actually about being grounded. Safety is about being regulated. It's about being in integrity, if you will. It means that you know how to hold yourself, and in so doing, she doesn't have to do this for you. It means that your truth and your presence are consistent. It means that you don't punish her with withdrawal. It means that you don't act calm but carry rage underneath the surface. It means that you're not confusing composure with control. See, safety is not passivity, it's actually clarity. It's the emotional environment that you're able to create when you show up with yourself. Because if you don't feel safe with your own emotions, then she's not going to feel safe with them either. So, you want to touch her body, but let me ask you again, in a different way, have you touched your own truth? Have you sat with your grief without trying to numb it? Have you held your longing without turning it into pressure? Have you in essence owned your own fear without disguising it as control? Because until you do that, your energy will always feel unsafe. Now you might say all the right things, like I said, but she still flinches. She'll still pull back a bit. She'll hesitate to let herself melt near you. It's not because she's cold. It's not because you're not steady. It's not because she doesn't want intimacy. You both do. But it's because you haven't created the conditions for that intimacy. And here's the part that most men don't realize, I feel. And that is that she wants to trust you. Yes, she wants to open up to you. She wants to actually feel free with you. But trust is not built on your desire. It's actually built on your presence. And presence is not just being physically there. I'm talking about your emotional availability or your nervous system, your regulation, your ability to hold space without demanding something back. So ask yourself this. When she's quiet, do you reach for control or do you stay steady? When she's emotional, do you get defensive or do you make room? When she pulls away, do you collapse or do you retaliate? Or do you hold her in her dignity with patience? These are the moments that define whether she feels safe or not. And I mean, let's be honest, you can't fake this. You can't just copy a script from a podcast. You can't just memorize like therapeutic language, and you can't just mirror back what you're thinking she wants to hear from you. Because safety is not a strategy. It's actually a sense of embodiment. It's who you become when you stop trying to be good and instead start trying to be authentic and real. And it starts on the inside before it can ever reach her. See, most men, we don't grow up being taught how to create safety. We're taught how to achieve. We're taught how to impress and how to provide and how not to become someone who makes closeness possible. And so we try to connect by being impressive and by being helpful, by being the good guy, by saying all the things that we think she wants to hear from us. But here's the paradox. Trying to earn her trust is the very thing that makes her feel unsafe. Because at its core, it's still performance. It's still about being chosen. It's not about her being safe. And when your energy is centered around being seen, for example, or being picked or validated, that's energy. That's energy that she has to figure out how to navigate. But let me name something even a little harder on this. See, sometimes she doesn't actually feel safe because your wounds are leaking through. And that doesn't mean that you're a monster. Not at all. And it doesn't mean that you're abusive either. It doesn't even mean that you're beyond redemption. But if you're carrying unprocessed rage or unacknowledged shame or even invisible grief that you've numbed for years and suppressed and stifled, then even if you've never raised your voice, she will feel it. She won't feel it in what you do, perhaps, but in how you actually are holding the room. Because safety isn't just built through action. It's communicated through tone and through energy and through subtle cues that we drop as crumbs. So does your body soften or harden when she shares something vulnerable with you? Do your eyes stay gentle or do they grow distant when she disappoints you? Or do you pause to breathe? Or do you just rush in to try and fix? She notices all these things, you see, but not because she's fragile, but because her body is wired to survive. And if you want to be close to her, you need to understand that her body is not looking for your resume. It's actually looking for signals that say, I'm safe. I'm safe here in this place. I don't have to defend myself. See, some of you will hear this and you might think, but what about me? Like, what about my needs? Don't I have needs as well? What about the safety that I don't feel? Isn't that legitimate? And I mean, yes, that's legitimate. That's totally valid. You also deserve safety as well. You also deserve softness. You do deserve like space to be able to breathe as well. I acknowledge that. But here's the difference. See, she's not asking you to never be hurt. She's just asking for you to own it and to face it and to name it without turning it into a demand. Because safety isn't about never being triggered. Safety is more about how you handle yourself when you are triggered. So, do you disappear? Or do you blame perhaps? Do you get cold? Or do you become sarcastic or quiet or even cruel? Or do you just stay? Do you remain in your integrity even when you're scared? See, that's the kind of safety that actually builds trust. That's the kind of safety that builds emotional intimacy. And that makes her body lean toward you instead of away from you. Because you're not trying to win her. You're actually showing her who you are when there's nothing to gain. And you're becoming a resting place, not a trap, if you will. You're becoming a place where she can exhale, where she doesn't have to scan the room per se. You become the place where she doesn't have to do the emotional labor of making you okay. And that's where safety lies. So here's the irony in all this. Consider this irony. The very thing that you want from her, which is her openness, her trust, her closeness, this is the very thing that you're blocking when you make it all about you. And when you need her validation to feel okay, you're in essence stopping being a container for her emotions. You're making her responsible for your worth. And that's when she starts to back away. And she backs away not because she doesn't love you, but because she can't keep carrying both your longing and your regulation at the same time. See, your unspoken declaration is very loud. It drowns out her ability to feel safe. So, what do you do instead? You return to integrity. You ask yourself, am I emotionally available or am I just being physically present? Am I honest about my emotions or do I hide behind measures of control? Am I safe for her nervous system or am I just demanding connection only on my terms? So you learn to slow down and you learn to breathe. You learn to sit with your need without making it her job to fix it. And you start building the kind of emotional structure that makes you safe to be around. And it's not going to be perfect. And it most likely won't be calm all the time, but it'll be stable and clear and accountable. And when you do that, her body will feel that shift because you'll stop needing her to choose you and instead start becoming someone who's safe to choose. So let's make this even more practical because the abstract idea of emotional safety, it sounds good. But if you're wondering what that actually looks like in like day-to-day life, here it is. Emotional safety looks like not interrupting when she's actually expressing her pain, okay? Or not fixing her feelings, but just instead holding space for them. Not withdrawing when you feel insecure, but actually naming it and saying, ooh, there it is. Not weaponizing past vulnerability that she's shared with you. Or not punishing her with silence or guilt when she says no. And letting her be complex without needing to simplify her into something digestible. See, it's not complicated, but this is rare because this requires a man who has done the work to hold himself and to be good in that space. See, most of us have never learned how to do this. A lot of us men were raised to see emotional steadiness as weakness, to see softness as weakness, to see needing anything as a weakness. And so when a woman pulls away or sets a boundary, we tend to panic. We tighten up, we take it personally, and that's when safety disappears. Because suddenly, it's not about her anymore. It's actually about you. It's about your fears and your insecurities, and it's about your reactions. And instead of actually becoming a place of presence, we in essence become another pressure point that she has to figure out. Now, we might not say it out loud, but the message she feels is clear. And it says, you're only safe here when you give me what I want. And that makes her guard go right up, doesn't it? Not because she doesn't care about you, but because something that's primal in her knows that this is not safe. I don't feel safe in this setting at all. It's not emotionally trustworthy. It's not spacious. It's anchored in integrity when she's responding this way. It's an energy that feels like this. It says, I'm here for you as long as you make me feel good. See, that's not intimacy. That's actually conditional presence. You give me what I want, then I'll probably give you what you want. And what she's longing for is presence. Presence that doesn't flinch when she's not perfect. Presence that doesn't punish her for having needs that she expresses. A presence that stays without grasping. Let's talk about control for a second though. See, control is often the opposite of safety. You might not mean to actually control her, but when you're afraid of rejection, right? Afraid of being seen, afraid of not being good enough, you unconsciously try to manage how she shows up. And this could look like making passive aggressive comments about her clothing, for example. Or it could look like getting cold when she spends time with others. Or needing constant reassurance just to feel loved. Or becoming performative instead of honest. Or expecting her to make you feel emotionally okay. And none of this is about evil intent. It's really at the heart about fear. But if you actually never name that fear, if you never actually face that wound, then you're turning it into a strategy of survival. A strategy that feels like suffocation to her. So what would it look like to stop controlling and instead to start becoming? To stop manipulating outcomes and to start being a man of integrity? What would it look like to stop trying to be liked and instead start becoming trustworthy? Because here's what safety really means. Listen in. Safety really means that you are trustworthy, even when she's not looking. It means that you don't punish with distance. It means that you stay emotionally congruent. It means that you're taking responsibility for your own regulation. And it means that you don't actually make her body a reward for performance. It further means that her nervous system feels calm around you because you feel calm within yourself. And that's what makes her lean in. That's what makes her trust you. That's what makes her body say yes. So you don't have to be perfect. But if you want to be close to her, if you want her to feel safe, then you have to be honest. You have to face the part of you that believes that you have to earn her with performance or pressure or pretend that you're in your strength. Because she does not need your mask. She needs your presence. And that presence, that presence will never be built when there's fear at your core. And if you made it this far, then something inside of you is already shifting, I imagine. Because perhaps you're realizing how much of your love was really fear in disguise. Maybe you're noticing how many of your nice guy behaviors may have been strategies for control. Maybe you're seeing clearly for the first time that safety is not something that you ask for, but instead it's something that you create. And now you want to do this differently, right? See, this really matters. So where do we begin? Let's start by building safety in ourselves first, right? Because excuse me, because the relationship that you have with your own heart, that sets the tone for every other relationship in your life. And so if you're afraid to face your sadness, you'll flinch, especially when hers shows up. If you're hiding from your own anger, you'll most likely explode when hers threatens your sense of control. And if you've never learned to sit with your unmet needs, you'll likely demand that she fill them without even realizing you're doing that. That's why safety isn't just about being kind, it's about actually being whole. And wholeness is what makes it means that you've made peace with your own humanity. So you no longer need her to manage yours for you. That's what integrity looks like. It's when you become the kind of man who makes it safe to be fully human. And and you don't punish her for being messy. And you don't disappear when you feel small. And and you don't use shame to gain control. And you don't withhold affection when you're feeling powerless. Instead, you've learned how to stay in that discomfort. Not because she's earned it, but because you did the work to become someone who could hold emotional tension without collapsing or controlling. That's intimacy. And that starts long before your hands ever touch her. So, what does this mean when it comes to sex? It means touch should never lead. Safety should always lead. It means you ask things like, what do you need right now? More than you're asking, what can I get from you? It means you slow down long enough to feel what she's actually feeling, not what you're hoping that she'll say. It further means that you're recognizing that consent isn't just a checkbox you tick. It's actually an ongoing conversation that includes her nervous system, her history, her voice, and her silence. It means that you're not there to take, you're there to share. And if she doesn't feel safe to share, then you pause, you listen, and you make that more important than your expressed desire. Because you know what's more attractive than charm? Safety. And what's more powerful than seduction is one who is present and in that moment. And what's more healing than passion is when there's trust. And when a woman feels all these things, not because you demanded them, but because you cultivated them, then she will meet you with depth and openness that you've never felt before. And it's not because you've convinced her, but it's because she could finally find rest near you. That's the goal. It's not her body, not her approval, and not her performance, but it's her rest, her truth, her presence in its unfiltered form. And if you want that, you must first become the kind of man who makes himself safe to be with. Not for her praise, but because that's what integrity requires of you. Not for her affection, but because that's what intimacy is inviting. And don't do this for her body. Do it because that's who you truly are when you stop performing, and when you stop pleasing, and when you stop hiding. So before you touch her body, ask yourself this: would she feel safer with me here, or would she feel more alone? And if the answer isn't safety, then go back to the mirror, not to shame yourself, but to begin this real work, because that's what love requires of all of us. It requires us to grow the kind of presence that doesn't have to be earned, that doesn't actually depend on being liked, and that doesn't need control. This is the kind of presence that isn't afraid to hold space for another human being, Because finally, it has learned how to hold space for itself. I hope this has served you well. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Any of your experiences, drop them down in the comments if you would.